Disclaimer. Surf's Up podcast is for entertainment and inspirational purposes only. It does not endorse any of the activities discussed on the show.
Alright, so that's pretty much a second.
Yep. Surf's Up podcast. I'm here with Dante from Umbrella Crew. He's a DJ and the sound engineer for the whole crew. What's up, Dante? How you doing today?
Afternoon, Umbrella friends. Doing good. Yeah, been doing a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, like helping me tonight.
It's just finding, now that COVID has rendered all live events kind of offline, it's been all about kind of figuring out how to, apply those skills and apply that knowledge in different ways. So,
yeah,
it's been a cool challenge.
Yeah, I guess you have what has your work shifted to?
I've been doing more of doing masters for different producers that are getting their tracks signed. I've been helping people set up podcasting or home studios. I've been doing a bit of looking at web development and plugin development. And then I've also been working on my interactive art. So it's kind of just
interactive art. What do you mean?
So I like taking Arduinos and sensors and basically hooking them up to LEDs or speakers or different things that produce reactions. So
okay.
One that I'm working on this week is it's kind of a weird chandelier with a bunch of prisms and reflective things hanging off of it, and in the middle there's 2 rings of lights, and when you walk under the chandelier it's gonna flash on and start spinning.
That's
and
tight.
Then it stops.
Motion censored?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's tight.
And so
that's super
simply
tight.
by walking under it, all of a sudden creates this whole crazy light show with all the prisms and stuff.
Hell yeah.
So it's been a challenge to kind of whittle down the complexity so that it's about simple but interesting interactions, right? So that's been a focus of mine. I've been wanting to do that type of art for years, and I've made a couple different pieces. And
so that brings me usually to my first question, what is your origin story? Where did you pick up your skills? How old were you?
Ooh, I have so many different hats that
yeah,
it kind of depends on which part.
When
of
did
my
you start
practice
DJing? Or did you pick that up?
Straight up, I started DJing last year, just kind of because I was around it so much.
Yeah, okay. So you were sound engineer and light,
Yeah, well, so I've been
production.
I played piano since I was 6.
Okay.
So
that's where we start.
From a music world, I was getting into, playing on GarageBand and plugging in mics and recording demos around when I was 13 or 14. One of my friends was in a band and invited us to his show, and that was kind of the first time I realized, oh, this is something I could do. For a long time, I thought, being in a band and going around and doing that and throwing shows was,
out of your reach.
Yeah, something you gotta be, really up there to do.
I surprisingly never made that jump. I had friends from the time I was in 7th grade that were in bands and stuff, and I always followed them around, but I played soccer, so my extracurricular time was always with sports, where when I wasn't doing sports, then I would go hang out with my musician friends, but they were constantly practicing, they were light years ahead of me, so it discouraged me, which I regret now, not just when you're a kid, you're just kind of always comparing yourself to your peers, unfortunately. I've actually, after getting in the scene and seeing so many people like you said you just picked it up a year and a half ago. Robbie, I don't know if you know Robbie, with Spectrum, but he's like, yeah, it's just been like 2 years, just like figuring it out, and that like gives me a lot more hope that like as soon as I get my jump drive like full of music, like I'll start figuring it out.
Yeah, it's not a very steep learning curve per se,
Yeah.
as opposed to other music practices.
Yeah.
I feel like production has a pretty steep learning curve.
Fuck yeah.
And like
Producing this, like, I was like, oh, we're just gonna set the camera up, a couple mics, and we'll be good to go. Way more complicated than that.
Yeah, and like playing with other people, that's a whole other learning curve.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was a kid, and then
Me too. At one point.
Yeah, and I still am like super fascinated by the ocean.
Have you seen this is a little off topic, but Netflix? Have you seen Moving Art on Netflix? It's got all the scenes, but the ocean one is amazing. It has all the whales, like mind blowing. It makes you feel like you're tripping under the ocean, but you don't even have to be tripping.
Oh yeah, the stuff. I mean, that's what really inspired me. I mean, not the tripping, but like the trippiness of it was like, I was really fascinated by extraterrestrials and like alternative life forms and like things that I was like, how can life take that form? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And that was always driving my fascination since I was like 3 years old.
Yeah.
And then I got a book from a book fair that had a bunch of illustrations of these deep sea critters, and I was like, this is the closest thing to aliens we can get on this
Pretty
earth.
much.
And I was like, well, I
Yeah,
don't know
they're
if
down
I'll
there.
get to seeing those aliens in my lifetime, but maybe I can look at studying those ones.
And the deeper you go, the weirder it gets,
Yeah.
Like gets just like octopus and like squid and then like the ones that are down there that have their own lights, like
Yeah.
and like
I was
fluorescent and
I was just listening to
jellyfish
a
and
podcast,
mind-boggling.
yeah, there was one deep sea octopus that it was a new species that they had never seen it lay eggs and take care of that. We know that generally the process that octopi take, octopuses, I'm not even gonna, whatever.
What is the correct term? It's octopi, right? It's got to be.
I'm not even gonna.
You
have
wanted
this
to be the marine
argument right
biologist,
now.
so
Like I
Figured
think it
you might
depends
know.
on there. As I understand it, it has different roots. There's like a Greek and a Latin root in it, so depending on how you want to twist it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Like I'm not the expert on this. I'm not gonna get into it
Yeah,
right now.
etymology is definitely interesting, but yeah, I'm
But
not.
This octopus was taking care of its eggs for literally years,
Yeah.
which is the
Whoa.
longest gestation period of any animal on Earth that we've ever observed.
Holy shit.
Like
Years.
The
What? Do you know which
it
one?
was
Is
a-
it the giant one or?
No, it was a really deep sea
Oh, okay.
octopus. It was one that we
Gotcha.
hadn't studied very much. The shallow
Yeah.
water octopi and shallow relatively, their gestation period is like 1 month generally.
Huh.
Just like that's how long it takes for them from laying the eggs to take care of them until they hatch.
That's wild.
And so finding something down there that was years is like
Yeah.
mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Like what does that mean? How slow must that metabolism run? Or like, I don't know if that's.
I think another thing that's crazy, just with whales that breathe oxygen and go down for
Yeah.
God
4 or
knows
5
hours, days, I don't know, like for a long fucking time on one breath, you know.
Wild.
I think that's just absolutely insane that like the way that they use the oxygen, you know what I mean? That's incredible to me because I recently tried out the Wim Hof method, and when you do like a series of deep breaths, all like full in, full out, full in, full out for an extended period of time, and then you do full in, full out, and you hold out for 1.5 minutes. And it's actually not that hard. Like 1.5 minutes I didn't struggle. because you super oxygenate all your cells
Mm-hmm.
in your body. Your bloodstream is just full of oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And because you exhaled at the end, you're you have enough balance of CO2 that you can just hold it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's interesting is you don't feel as much of an urge to breathe, but your hands and your toes start tingling. It's really crazy. And it actually was pretty psychedelic.
But you have to stay still for this, right?
Relatively,
like,
yeah. When you're doing the breathing, you're actually like pumping your chest, breathing through your chest, and then out through your stomach, and then in through your chest and out through your stomach repeatedly. Yeah, it came up on YouTube, and I had heard of it, and so the other night I just did it, and it was pretty wild.
Yeah,
like
it's fascinating, the different techniques for that.
Breathing techniques are something that have caught my attention in the past, like probably 7-8 months. I learned to do the pranic breathing technique, which is 6 in, 3 hold, 6 out, 3 hold for releasing trauma. And shit you not, it helped like so much. And then there's box breathing, which is like 3 in, 3 out, or 3 in, 3 hold, 3 out, 3 hold, or it can be any number. It's just a box.
What
number.
was your metric for it working? Like what was the difference that you felt?
So box breathing, they both calm you down. But what you do with pranic breathing is you imagine all your stresses and whatever you're trying to let go of, whatever trauma you can realize from your past, you bring it to the surface and you breathe it away. So that's how that works. And then box breathing is just to calm the parasympathetic nervous system.
See, it's so funny when we're talking about practices like this, because you
That's
get
what
to a point where you're like, then that's how that works. But it's
Yeah.
like, but there's so much more.
There's
in
so
there.
much more. There's so much
Like,
more.
In that one sentence of like, well, you bring your trauma up and you breathe it out. It's like, but what is that? What does that involve? How do
Yeah.
how does that?
It involves visualization
mechanism?
as well, But yeah, I actually watched with James Nestor on Joe Rogan the other day, and he was talking about, I can't remember the name of it, but there's this one where they just do like hard in and out breaths for as long as you basically can, and it just like it really brings out your CO2 levels, and it's one of the most psychedelic experiences you can have. From what like Ben Greenfield said, and I don't know if you know who that is, but he's like a super high performer. He's like a biohacker. He's all into biohacking. So
that's probably
yeah.
I have a friend that is giving me notions. Here, I'm gonna take this out just because the shape of these hurt my ear after a certain time.
No doubt. I got it. I got
wonder
the
if I can
audio figured
this
out.
one in maybe. But yeah, so circling around, it was like I played music with some friends of friends when I was like 14, and I had never played music with anyone else before. I had only a year prior taught myself to improvise.
Yeah.
Because I'd been sight reader, classical piano player for...
And piano is the best starting block for any musician, from what I've heard.
I mean...
Because you can learn to read sheet music while you play.
It depends
and you can
on...
tie it all together.
I'm a strong advocate that everything has its strength and weakness.
For sure.
I think it's really hard to just say, oh yeah, piano in general gives you all of that, because like...
More so the music theory, I from what other musicians have told me.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it depends what part of music theory, right? Because if you're talking about violin and bowed instruments, that gives you a much stronger sense of attack and dynamic.
Yeah.
That with piano, it's like, okay, yeah, there is a bit of that with like the sensitivity of how hard you hit it, but it's a different...
If I were to pick
sense,
one, and I've already chosen it, but what I want to learn is violin. there's just something about that sound that there's nothing like it to me, especially like at a live show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, to get there, it's the variables are so wild. Why violin over like one of the deeper instruments, one of the deeper like a cello or
I like the high. I like the higher pitch.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, cello too is beautiful, but
I mean,
there's also something to me about with a guitar. You're looking down, and you're like this and this, and you're looking at the strings like this, where to me it makes so much more sense to be looking down the strings, so that you can see what you're hitting while you play, rather than looking at picking and then, you know, of course, skilled guitarists are not looking at both,
mm-hmm.
you know, but they are when they start.
Well, yeah, I guess that's something you'll have to see because violin is such a tight scale length that
Yeah.
it almost doesn't help to see it because it can look the same and sound and
Completely
be
different.
intoned. I mean, not completely.
Well, yeah.
It just it's the mild intonation that you start getting a sense of after you've really started playing like two other instruments and two other.
Have you ever heard of Richard Wagner? He's who turned me on. Yeah, Richard Wagner.
Yeah.
He's like 19, 20, and he plays with Trevor Hall.
I don't know that one.
Trevor Hall's, I don't know, he's a great musician as well. But did that light just go down? It seems like it did. I might be crazy. It looks fine. After setting all this shit up, it was like, so we're getting off topic. Who inspires you? Because I know what inspires me, that made me want to do this, was the whole scene and seeing all the like people with talent around me doing, you know, working real jobs, quote unquote, and then having their side hustle, you know, whether it be a DJ or whatever. Typically DJs, but you know, there's artists, vendors, people who sell crystals and do raps, like, you know, it's the whole scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Man, okay, so I guess there's a couple answers to that. I mean, one, I'm very driven by certain sensations or feelings. So like when I started playing with those friends when I was 14, it got to a point where we could walk into a room and just start playing our instruments, and we would know when to like drop into the bridge, how to jump into the chord progression that the other one was throwing in. Like it started becoming this very direct feeling of connection with like what's going on in my head is very similar to what's going on in your head, and I can see that and feel that and work with it.
Yeah.
And that was such a fascinating
The collaboration part.
Yeah, but the nonverbal connection.
Yeah.
The like borderline mind link that happened once you really got to know the other people you were playing with.
Yeah.
That was like...
That's another thing I've
really
noticed
bizarre
about higher states of mind on the dance floor or whatever. But there's like a language that's unspoken between all of us, you know, that we all pick up with intuitively without ever... You just figure it out and pick it up.
Yes and no.
And there's different.
Some people never do. Some people never figure out how to pick it up. And that's what really.
I feel like those are the people that are too far into the drinking or drugs and not into the actual feel and energy of the scene. But maybe I'm completely off base.
I think there's a lot more to it, and that's the thing that's kind of tripped me up. Because originally I thought that I accessed this feeling by playing an instrument.
Yeah.
And so I took that inspiration and wanted to create musical instruments that allowed people that didn't understand music theory to access that feeling of expression and being able to play along. And so I started getting really into experimental music and experimental instruments to figure out how to break this idea of a uniform and standardized music theory, because I felt like the need to conform to that music theory is what holds a lot of people back from taking their music practice further in the first place, because they think, like you were saying, they're like, oh, well, I'm not as good at doing that as that guy is.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what the fuck doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter.
You know, you can do something else that they got nothing on.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know what that is until you just start playing around with it.
Yeah.
And
you
know,
start getting props
figure
for
out.
it, which,
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
that can definitely steer you in a direction.
yeah.
It never hurts to have encouragement.
For sure. For sure.
But yeah, so like, how do I instill that feeling in other people? And over time, I realized it wasn't about making an instrument that everyone could play.
Yeah.
Right? Because I started realizing other people access that feeling when
What do you mean make an instrument? Make something that's not a typical instrument? You've invented an instrument? Or
I mean,
I'm just curious.
yeah, in an odd sense, I've made fretless instruments that had different pairs of strings and different scale lengths that were more like a baritone guitar.
Okay.
Because I've been really into microtonal music.
Okay.
I'm tried to make like different. There are these like drone instruments where you take strings or different surfaces and create a system to just rub them together at different frequency, like textural music.
Yeah.
You know, like there's
For sure.
a lot of different.
My favorite band, bar none, is Dirtwire. Like, hands down. And seeing those guys and all the instruments that they play in a live set is astounding.
Yeah.
And instruments you've never heard of, you don't even... 50% of the instruments they play, you don't know the names of. Like, you don't. Or, I mean, you might, you know, but I would bet that most people in the room don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when he plays I call it the dirty wire, the single string bass, the wambala.
Nice.
That thing is wild. And then, you know, there's the thing that he blows in and has the keyboard. I can't remember what it's called.
Melodica?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. And then, like, I have a jaw harp that I bought from them. Because, fuck yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And, like, it's really fun. Just, like, if you're at a festival or in any, like, just, like, a little quiet space, like, you know, campfire or whatever, just bust that thing out and, like, make some weird sounds, like...
Oh,
yeah.
I love whacking around on jaw harps and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that's kind of what got me into like the reactive art and the sensors, is realizing that like it's not even about creating an instrument, it's about just creating an experience and creating a space for people to try to play, to let go of this I don't know, this feeling like there's a certain way
like
I
there's got to be
an act,
a verse and a chorus and all that noise, but
Yeah.
music can just be music.
Well, and it expands beyond that. It's like
Soundscapes.
It's
More,
well, no, it's like it's just like you can. It's letting someone know that they can feel ecstatic and express themselves in an abstract way and not be out of line.
yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times if someone was just like if you were just so excited you want to start doing jumping jacks and start singing to a palm tree. I don't know, fucking random, but people would look at you weird. But if someone was really
not at the right festival.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Is like in a festival setting, this isn't.
Yeah.
But I'm saying sometimes I don't know. Like that's
I hear what you're saying.
An out there example, but I've definitely.
But at the
like had
with the
times
right
where I'm just so in like
with the right artist, but downtown San Diego at Music Box, there is going to be the other 50% of people that aren't from the festival scene that are like, what the fuck are these weirdos doing?
Well, no, and I think it's like that's the thing is like how do we start?
Some of us get it, and you know, yeah.
Well, but it's everyone gets it in the sense of, oh, we go to this event so we can behave like that. We go to this space that's created for that. And my question is increasingly become, how do we make it comfortable for people to feel like they can express themselves
anytime
in public, in general?
Yeah.
And that's something that's become increasingly locked down.
Yeah.
And now that we can't be around, now that we can't gather in public. I mean, gatherings have always been a contentious thing. You
Yeah.
couldn't just set up your band on the street corner. You'd get a fucking noise ordinance. You'd get like,
I don't know. Yeah, for sure.
Depending on
Most
how
places.
far you want to go, it's like you can't just
Not an OB.
but like, how many places can say that?
Yeah,
Sunday?
for
like,
sure.
OB is
its own.
out.
It's its own animal. Last Wednesday, drum circle was insane.
Mm-hmm.
It was some kid's birthday, and it was wild. It was crazy, and yeah, it was a gathering. It was a hell of a gathering for a Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. It was a good time.
Yeah, but
DJ was playing some whack music though. It had like, you know, some good sounds, and then it was like some old school like shitty rap. Like not, I mean, I don't know. I don't like to judge on music too much because I like a lot of fucking music, but I was like, really? Like this is not the DJ I would see in OB typically. But maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I get caught up. I think I zoom out too far when I do that and like start thinking about how these rituals bleed into our regular lives.
Yeah.
And like how does these feelings, like how do we use these events as recharge stations rather than places where we drain ourselves? And like
I've tried to I hear what you're saying, and for me, I had that same vision, and I feel like I've accomplished it in a lot of ways. But living the festival life in everyday life, not every day, but a lot of times, you know what I mean? Like there's certain ritual, and there's a lot of people in San Diego that do, that they never leave the festival.
Mm-hmm.
They may leave the grounds, but that they live the festival every day. You know what I mean? And they, I don't know, they practice those same things that you learn at a festival on the daily, and it reciprocates in the community, you know. And those are the people that kind of stick out in certain communities, you know, more so in like PB, like you're kind of sticking out, like as far as like, you know, compared to all the bros. You know what I mean? Just from what I've seen, you know, it's a little bit different in OB where everybody's just still on that fucking level, but or at least most of the time. I don't know.
Well, see, and then
I'm getting judgy about areas now, I feel like.
They definitely have personalities, but yeah, you can't judge the people. It's tricky like that. Huh?
Yeah. But we got like 2 minutes, so.
Okay.
What's your what's your next step?
Ooh, big
I mean, I guess continuing what you're doing, but
creatively, or I guess I'll take it that direction. I'm working on. Oh man, there's so many answers to that question.
Hopefully, with helping me a little bit more with the tech I got going on here.
I'm definitely working on like putting out what I have going on, because like I realized one of the Umbrella Friend events that we threw before quarantine got implemented, and
that was the last hurrah.
Yeah, well, and even
Umbrella Weekend was the last hurrah.
Yeah, it was really nuts.
I didn't make it. I was bummed.
Did not think that was gonna go like that. We were all like getting
COVID hit, and it was like the week before Umbrella Weekend, and I talked to everybody.
Like actually hit.
Everybody was like still going, still fucking going out to the desert. Like,
we had put so much work in. I slept so few hours that week that like for any of that to pass up would have been too much. Sorry
to cut you off, but we have got to get out of here. Our camera is about to cut. Thank you for joining us again. Dante, where can they find you? On Instagram?
Escrofani Engineering. I'll have to spell that out in the info or something.
We can put that in the description.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of Umbrella Crew. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
And there's a little emancipator for you guys. Surf's Up, fam. Corey here. Thank you for tuning in to the episode. Surf's Up is still dialing in its technical skills, so we're really happy you made it to the end. Remember, perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below, as well as check out our Patreon link if you're in a giving mood. We'll be seeing you in the waters of life's next swell, so prepare well and exercise your freedom. Surf's up, Godspeed, love loud, and peace out.